Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge of the spaceship Endeavour, watching the stars drift past the large windows. Her hand rested on the warm scales of Kairos, a dragon unlike any creature that had ever existed. The dragon was 12 feet tall, with beautiful green and silver scales that changed color in the light. Its eyes were deep blue and held wisdom that seemed older than time itself. 3 years had passed since Lisa first met Kairos on the planet Valdris. She had been part of a team exploring the ruins of an ancient alien race called the Zirathi. While her teammates studied the old buildings and strange machines, Lisa had wandered into a deep cave. There, she found Kairos sleeping in a chamber filled with glowing crystals. The moment their eyes met, something magical happened. Lisa felt a warm feeling spread through her mind. She could suddenly hear Kairos thinking, and the dragon could hear her thoughts too. They were connected in a way that no human had ever connected with another creature before. Captain Greg Sullivan had been worried at first. Dragons were things from old stories, not real life. But this dragon was made by the Zirathi long ago, using their advanced science. It was both alive and partly machine, created to be a guardian and friend to worthy beings. The Zirathi had been gone for thousands of years, but their dragon still waited for someone special to find it. Lisa discovered that being bonded with Kairos changed her in amazing ways. She could see better, hear sounds from far away, and heal faster when she got hurt. She could feel danger before it happened, and she was much stronger than before. But the best part was never being alone. Kairos was always there in her mind, sharing feelings and thoughts like a true friend. The other crew members learned to accept the unusual pair. Pete Johnson, the ship's engineer, was fascinated by how Kairos seemed to understand complex problems. The dragon would look at broken machines and somehow know what was wrong. Amy Roberts, the doctor, studied how the bond between Lisa and Kairos worked. She found that Lisa's body had changed in ways that made her almost superhuman. For 3 years, Lisa and Kairos explored dangerous worlds together. They saved the crew from alien monsters, found lost treasures, and helped make peace with new alien races. The dragon could fly through space without a suit, and Lisa could ride on its back, protected by a field of energy that Kairos created around them. Both, that their peaceful life was about to end. The attack came without warning. Lisa was in her room, brushing Kairos' scales, when alarms started screaming throughout the ship. Red lights flashed as Captain Sullivan's voice echoed through the speakers. "All hands to battle stations. We have unknown ships approaching fast." Lisa ran to the bridge with Kairos flying beside her. Through the windows, she could see 3 large black ships moving toward them. They were covered in spikes and had red lights that looked like evil eyes. "Krillians," Captain Sullivan said with disgust. "Slave traders. They capture rare creatures and sell them to the highest bidder." Lisa felt Kairos growl in her mind. Dragon had heard of the Krillians from the memories stored in its ancient brain. They were cruel beings who took intelligent creatures from their homes and forced them to fight for entertainment. "They want Kairos," Lisa said, her heart pounding with fear. "Over my dead body," Captain Sullivan replied. The battle began with explosions of light and sound. The Endeavor's weapons fired at the enemy ships, but the Krillians had better shields. Their ships were built for war, while the Endeavor was made for exploration. Lisa and Kairos fought side by side on the bridge. The dragon's breath could melt metal, and its claws could tear through the strongest materials. Lisa used her enhanced speed and strength to help the crew repair damage and return fire. Together, they were unstoppable, but the Krillians had prepared for this fight. They knew about Lisa and Kairos from spies and informants. They had built special weapons just for capturing the dragon. "Lisa, look out!" Amy Roberts shouted. A strange purple beam shot from the lead Krillian ship. Lisa tried to dodge, but the beam was too fast. It hit her and Kairos at the same time, and suddenly, the most terrible thing happened. The connection between Lisa and Kairos snapped like a broken wire. Lisa screamed as she felt the dragon's mind disappear from hers. It was like having part of her soul torn away. She fell to her knees, clutching her head as pain shot through her entire body. Kairos roared in agony, a sound so full of pain that every person on the bridge had to cover their ears. The dragon's scales lost their beautiful color and turned dull gray. Its eyes, once bright with intelligence, became cloudy and confused. Neural disruptor, Pete Johnson said, reading his instruments. It's designed to break telepathic bonds. Before anyone could react, the Krillians fired special nets made of energy. The nets wrapped around Kairos, and no matter how hard the dragon struggled, it could not break free. The nets were designed to hold creatures far stronger than dragons. Lisa tried to reach her friend, but her body would not obey her. Without the bond, she was weak and sick. She could only watch in horror as the Krillians used their tractor beams to pull Kairos toward their ship. "No," Lisa cried, tears streaming down her face. "Give him back." But the Krillians did not care about her pain. They had what they came for. Their leader, a tall alien with 4 arms and cold yellow eyes, appeared on the ship's communication screen. "The dragon is ours now," he said in a voice like grinding metal. "It will make us very rich in the fighting pits of Torvin Prime. Do not try to follow us, or we will destroy your ship." The Krillian ships turned and flew away, taking Kairos with them. Lisa collapsed completely, her body shaking with sobs. She could feel the emptiness where Kairos used to be in her mind. It was like a black hole that hurt more than any physical wound. Amy Roberts rushed to help her, but Lisa was barely conscious. The doctor had read about what happened when telepathic bonds were broken. Most beings did not survive the shock. Lisa was alive, but she was badly hurt in ways that normal medicine could not fix. Captain Sullivan stood over Lisa's trembling form, his face hard with anger. "Set course for Krillian space," he ordered. "We're getting Kairos back." "Sir, that's suicide," Pete Johnson protested. "Krillian territory is heavily defended. We're just an exploration ship." "I don't care," Captain Sullivan replied. "No one takes a member of my crew, not while I'm in command." As the Endeavour changed course to follow the Krillians, Lisa drifted in and out of consciousness. In her fevered dreams, she could sometimes catch glimpses of what Kairos was seeing. The dragon was in a dark cage, surrounded by other captured creatures. Its scales were dull and lifeless, and its eyes were filled with sadness. But even in her weakened state, Lisa felt something else. Deep inside her mind, where the bond with Kairos used to be, a tiny spark of connection remained. It was barely there, like a candle flame in a hurricane, but it was real. Kairos was still alive, and somehow, some small part of their bond had survived. Lisa held on to that tiny spark like a lifeline. She would find her dragon, no matter what it took. The Krillians had made a terrible mistake when they took her best friend. They would learn that humans never gave up on the ones they loved. Lisa woke up in the medical bay 3 days later. Her head felt like it was full of broken glass, and her body ached all over. Without Kairos, she felt empty and lost. It was like trying to see with only one eye, or hear with only one ear. Part of her was missing. Amy Roberts sat beside her bed, checking the monitors that tracked Lisa's vital signs. The doctor looked worried. Dark circles under her eyes showed she had not slept much. "How do you feel?" Amy asked softly. "Like I'm dying," Lisa whispered. Her voice was rough from crying. "Your body is going through withdrawal," Amy explained. "The bond with Kairos changed your brain chemistry. Without it, Your system is struggling to function normally. Lisa tried to sit up, but waves of dizziness made her lie back down. I have to find him. He's scared and alone. You can barely move. Amy said, You need to rest and let your body heal. But Lisa could not rest. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw flashes of images that were not her own. She saw metal bars, concrete walls, and the faces of other trapped creatures. These visions came from the tiny spark of connection that still linked her to KAROS. Captain Sullivan entered the medical bay. His face was grim, and he carried a tablet full of information. How is she? He asked Amy, stable but weak. The bond breaking was like losing a limb. She might never fully recover. Lisa forced herself to focus on the captain. Where are we? Following the Krillians toward their home territory, Captain Sullivan replied, but they have a big head start. Our intelligence officer, Kevin Davis, has been researching their destination. Kevin Davis was a thin man with sharp eyes who knew everything about alien cultures. He entered the medical bay, carrying more tablets and looking very serious. I have bad news, Kevin said. The Krillians are taking Kairos to Torvin Prime. It's the center of their slave trade empire. Lisa's heart sank. She had heard terrible stories about Torvin Prime. It was a planet where captured creatures were forced to fight each other for the entertainment of rich aliens. There's more, Kevin continued. I intercepted some of their communications. They're planning to use Kairos in their grand arena. Dragons are extremely rare, so they expect to make a fortune from betting on the fights. That's not the worst part, Captain Sullivan added. After the fights, they plan to dissect Kairos. They want to study how the bonding process works so they can create weapons from other dragons. Lisa felt sick. The thought of Kairos being hurt was unbearable. She tried to get out of bed, but her legs would not support her weight. I'm going with you, she said, falling back onto the bed. I won't let them hurt him. You can't even walk, Amy protested. You're in no condition to fight. I don't care, Lisa replied. Kairos is my responsibility. I won't abandon him. Captain Sullivan looked at the determination in Lisa's eyes. He had served in space for 20 years, and he knew the look of someone who would not be stopped. All right, he said, but you follow my orders. This is a military operation now. Over the next few days, Lisa slowly regained some strength. The visions from Kairos became clearer and more frequent. She could see through the dragon's eyes for brief moments. Kairos was in a dark prison cell with other captured creatures. The dragon looked sick and weak without their bond. But the visions also showed Lisa something important. She could see the layout of the prison, the faces of the guards, and the routine of the facility. This information would be crucial for planning a rescue. Pete Johnson worked day and night to modify the Endeavor systems. He changed their ship's identification codes to make it look like a merchant vessel. He also built special equipment to jam Krillian sensors and communication systems. Meanwhile, Kevin Davis made contact with the underground resistance on Torvin Prime. Many alien races had been enslaved by the Krillians, and some had formed secret groups to fight back. The resistance was led by a fierce warrior named Zaranex, whose people had been conquered by the Krillians 50 years ago. Zaranex has agreed to help us, Kevin reported, but she wants something in return. If we succeed in rescuing Kairos, we have to help free some of her people who are also imprisoned. Done, Captain Sullivan said without hesitation. Anyone who fights against slavers is a friend of mine. As they traveled deeper into Krillian space, Lisa noticed that the visions were becoming stranger. Sometimes she saw things that did not make sense. Kairos' scales would glow with bright light, or the dragon would look directly at her through the vision, as if it knew she was watching. Something is happening to Kairos, Lisa told Amy during one of her medical checkups. The dragon is changing. Somehow, Amy ran more tests on Lisa's brain activity. The results were confusing. Your neural patterns are shifting, she said. Even with the bond broken, you're still connected to Kairos in some way. Lisa felt a spark of hope. Maybe the connection was not completely gone. Maybe there was still a chance to save her friend. The Endeavour finally reached the edge of Krillian space. Torvin Prime was a heavily defended planet, surrounded by military ships and weapons platforms. Getting close would be extremely dangerous. We'll have to be clever, Captain Sullivan said during a meeting with the crew. Direct assault is suicide. We need to get Lisa inside the planet's main city without being detected. Pete Johnson had finished his modifications to the ship. I've made us look like a luxury transport carrying wealthy passengers to the gladiator games. Rich aliens travel from all over the galaxy to watch the fights. Kevin Davis had prepared false identification papers for Lisa. You'll pose as a collector of rare creatures. Someone with enough money to buy a dragon, if the price is right. Lisa looked at herself in the mirror. She was still weak, but she had to be strong enough to save Kairos. The dragon was counting on her. What about backup? She asked. Zaranex and her resistance fighters will create a distraction, Captain Sullivan explained. While they attack the outer defenses, we'll extract you and Kairos from the arena. Amy Roberts gave Lisa a small device that looked like a piece of jewelry. This will monitor your health and let us track your location. If your condition gets worse, we'll know immediately. As the Endeavour approached Torvin Prime, Lisa felt the visions from Kairos becoming more intense. The dragon was being moved to a new location, somewhere with bright lights and loud noises. The arena was preparing for a big event. I'm coming, Kairos, Lisa whispered, touching the place where the bond used to be in her mind. Hold on just a little longer. The planet grew larger in the ship's windows. Torvin Prime was a world of metal and concrete, with massive towers reaching toward the sky. At the center of the main city stood the Grand Arena, a huge structure where thousands of beings came to watch creatures fight and die for their entertainment. Lisa felt a mixture of fear and determination. She was about to enter the most dangerous place in the galaxy, and she was still weak from losing her bond with Kairos. But she had to try. Her best friend was trapped down there, and she was the only one who could save him. The Endeavour began its descent toward the planet's surface. Lisa closed her eyes and concentrated on the tiny spark of connection that still linked her to Kairos. Through it, she felt the dragon's fear and confusion, but also something else. Hope. Kairos knew she was coming. The hunt for her dragon was about to begin. The Grand Arena on Torvin Prime was bigger than Lisa had imagined. The building rose from the planet's surface like a metal mountain, covered in flashing lights and massive screens that showed advertisements for the fighting events. Thousands of beings from dozens of different alien races walked through the entrance gates, all eager to watch creatures fight for their lives. Lisa wore expensive clothes that made her look like a wealthy collector. Her false identification papers said she was interested in buying rare creatures for her private collection. The story would explain why she was asking questions about dragons and trying to get close to the fighting pits. The inside of the arena was even more impressive than the outside. Marble floors stretched in all directions, and golden statues of famous gladiator beasts decorated the walls. Rich aliens sat in comfortable boxes high above the fighting floor, drinking expensive beverages and placing bets on which creatures would win. But Lisa was not interested in the luxury. She was here to find Kairos. Through the tiny spark of connection that still linked them, Lisa could feel that Kairos was somewhere deep below the arena. The dragon was scared and confused, but still alive. That was all that mattered. Lisa bought a ticket to the most expensive viewing box, which gave her access to the restricted areas where the wealthy customers could meet the creatures before buying them. She followed signs that led to the lower levels of the arena, The deeper she went, the more horrible the place became. The marble floors gave way to concrete, and the golden decorations disappeared. The air smelled of fear and suffering. Lisa could hear the roars and cries of trapped creatures echoing through the tunnels. Guards stood at every doorway, but they did not question Lisa's presence. Her expensive clothes and fake identification made her look like she belonged there. She walked past cells filled with creatures from across the galaxy, all waiting to fight in the arena above. There were six-legged cats from the ice worlds, their fur white as snow, but their eyes filled with rage. Giant insects with razor-sharp claws clicked and hissed at anyone who came too close. Lizard-like beings with poisonous breath paced back and forth in their small cages, dreaming of freedom. Lisa felt sick looking at all the trapped creatures, but she forced herself to keep moving. She had to find Kairos before the guards became suspicious. Finally, she reached the deepest level of the arena. Here, the most valuable creatures were kept in special cells that were guarded by both alien soldiers and automatic weapons. Lisa's heart pounded as she approached the area where she felt Kairos's presence most strongly. And there, in a cell behind bars of pure energy, was her dragon.co IRO. Looked terrible. The dragon's beautiful scales had turned dull gray, and its eyes were clouded with pain. Metal devices were attached to its head and neck, sending electrical pulses that kept it weak and confused. Heavy chains made of some kind of alien metal bound its wings and legs. But the moment Lisa came into view, something wonderful happened. Kairos's head lifted, and its eyes cleared for just a moment. The dragon could not send thoughts to Lisa through their broken bond, but she could see the recognition in its gaze. Kairos knew she had come to rescue it. "Beautiful creature," said a voice behind Lisa. She turned to see one of the arena guards, a tall alien with 4 arms and purple skin. "Are you interested in purchasing it?" Lisa had to act like a wealthy collector, even though seeing Kairos in chains made her want to attack the guard. "Perhaps," she said calmly. "What is its fighting record?" "This one has not fought yet," the guard replied. "It was just brought in a few days ago. Very rare specimen. The only dragon in the entire galaxy, as far as we know." Lisa felt anger burning inside her, but she kept her voice steady. "What is the asking price?" The guard smiled, showing sharp teeth. "This one is not for sale. It belongs to Arena Master Vex Therian personally. He plans to use it in tomorrow's Grand Championship fight." Lisa's blood turned cold. "Championship fight?" "Yes, the dragon will face the Iron Beast, our most successful gladiator. It has killed over 200 creatures in the past 5 years. The betting odds are very exciting." Lisa looked at the Iron Beast in the cell across from Kairos. It was a massive mechanical creature, half robot and half living tissue. Its body was covered in armor plating, and its claws were made of metal that could cut through anything. It was easily 3 times the size of Kairos and looked like it had been built for nothing but killing. "The dragon does not look ready to fight," Lisa observed. "Oh, it will be ready," the guard said with a cruel laugh. "The neural suppressors will be removed just before the fight. The creature will regain its strength and abilities, but it will be so angry and confused that it will fight with incredible fury." Lisa felt sick. The Krillians were going to torture Kairos right up until the moment of the fight, then remove the restraints and expect the dragon to battle for its life against an opponent it could not possibly defeat. "I should go," Lisa said, trying to keep her voice normal. "I have other creatures to examine." As she walked away, Lisa felt Kairos watching her. The dragon's eyes were full of hope and trust. It knew she would not abandon it. Lisa made her way back to the upper levels of the arena and found a private communication booth. She contacted Captain Sullivan on her hidden radio. "I found Kairos," she reported. "The situation is worse than we thought. They're going to make the dragon fight tomorrow against something called the Iron Beast. Can you get close enough to free it? Captain Sullivan asked. The cell is too heavily guarded, Lisa replied. But I have an idea. The neural suppressors will be removed before the fight. If I can get close to Kairos at that moment, maybe I can restore our bond. That's too dangerous, Captain Sullivan protested. You're still weak from the bond breaking. The shock could kill you. I have to try, Lisa said. It's the only chance. Kairos has. Amy Roberts' voice came through the radio. Lisa, your medical readings are showing stress levels that are off the charts. You need to get out of there. But Lisa was not leaving without her dragon. I'm buying a ticket to tomorrow's championship fight. I'll be in the audience when they bring Kairos into the arena. We'll be ready, Captain Sullivan promised. Zara Nex and her fighters will attack the arena's outer defenses at the same time. In the confusion, we'll extract you and Kairos. Lisa spent the rest of the day learning the layout of the arena and watching the regular fights. She saw creatures tear each other apart, while the audience cheered and placed bets. Each death made her more determined to save Kairos and put an end to this terrible place. That night, Lisa could not sleep. The visions from Kairos were stronger than ever. She could see through the dragon's eyes as guards came to its cell and began preparing it for the fight. They removed some of the neural suppressors, and Kairos immediately became more alert. But the dragon was also becoming more agitated. Without the full bond between them, Kairos did not understand what was happening. It only knew that it was trapped. And afraid, Lisa pressed her hand to her chest, where she used to feel the warm presence of Kairos' mind. Now there was only the tiny spark of connection, barely enough to share visions. But maybe, if she could get close enough, that spark could become a flame again. The next morning, Lisa took her place in the VIP section of the arena. The championship fight was the most popular event of the year, and every seat was filled. Rich aliens from across the galaxy had come to watch the rare dragon fight the famous Iron Beast. Arena Master Vex Therian stood in the center of the fighting floor, his forearms raised to quiet the crowd. He was a tall, thin creature, with skin like black leather and eyes that glowed red in the arena lights. Citizens of the galaxy, he announced, his voice echoing through the arena. Today you will witness the greatest fight in the history of our Colosseum. The legendary Iron Beast, undefeated in over 200 battles, will face the only dragon known to exist. The crowd roared with excitement. Lisa felt sick watching them cheer for what they thought would be entertainment, but was really going to be the torture and death of her best friend. But first, Vex Therian continued, let me present our contestants. A gate opened on one side of the arena, and the Iron Beast entered. It was even more terrifying in the bright lights of the fighting floor. Its metal claws scraped against the stone as it walked, and its red eyes scanned the audience like a predator looking for prey. Then another gate opened, and Kairos was pushed into the arena. The dragon looked small and weak compared to the Iron Beast, but Lisa could see that some of its strength was returning. The neural suppressors had been partially removed, and Kairos' scales were starting to show hints of their old green and silver color. Lisa stood up in her seat, her heart pounding. This was her chance. She had to get close enough to Kairos to restore their bond before the fight began. But as she started to move toward the arena floor, something unexpected happened. Kairos looked directly at her through the crowd, and there, eyes met across the distance. In that moment, Lisa felt the spark of connection between them flare to life. The moment Lisa's eyes met Kairos's across the arena, something amazing happened. The tiny spark of connection between them suddenly grew brighter. Lisa felt warmth spreading through her mind for the first time since the bond was broken. But this feeling was different from before. It was stronger, more intense. Lisa could not only sense Kairos's thoughts, but she could also feel the minds of other creatures in the arena. The six-legged cats in their cells below, the poisonous lizards, even the mechanical parts of the iron beast. She could sense them all. Kairos felt the change too. The dragon's scales began to glow with a soft white light. The remaining neural suppressors attached to its head started to spark and smoke as power surged through them. The crowd noticed the strange light coming from the dragon and began to murmur with excitement. They thought it was part of the show, a special effect to make the fight more entertaining. But Arena Master Vex Therian knew something was wrong. His red eyes narrowed as he watched the neural suppressors overload and fall off Kairos's head one by one. "Begin the fight," he commanded, hoping to start the battle before the dragon became too powerful. The iron beast moved forward, its metal claws extended and ready to strike. But Kairos did not attack. Instead, the dragon looked directly at Lisa again, and she felt something incredible happen. Tears began to flow down Lisa's face. She was not crying from sadness or fear, but from overwhelming joy. The bond with Kairos was not just returning. It was becoming something far greater than it had ever been before. The tears that fell from Lisa's eyes were special. During the 3 years she had been bonded with Kairos, her body had changed in ways that even Amy Roberts did not fully understand. The tears carried traces of the bioneural compounds that had formed when she and Kairos first connected on Val d'Ara's dot. As Lisa's tears fell, they seemed to hang in the air for a moment before disappearing. But they did not really disappear. They became part of the psychic energy that was building around Kairos. The dragon's transformation accelerated. Its scales shifted from dull gray to brilliant white gold, and its eyes blazed with inner fire. The heavy chains that bound its wings and legs began to crack and break as Kairos's strength returned. But the most remarkable change was in the dragon's mind. Lisa could feel Kairos's consciousness expanding, reaching out beyond just her thoughts. The dragon was connecting with every trapped creature in the arena. For the first time in their captivity, the enslaved creatures could communicate with each other. The six-legged cats felt the dragon's presence in their minds and began to respond. The poisonous lizards stopped pacing and looked toward the arena floor with new hope. Even creatures that had given up and accepted their fate began to feel something they had not felt in years, the possibility of freedom. The iron beast was confused by what was happening. It had been programmed to fight dragons, but the creature in front of it was changing into something its mechanical brain could not understand. The beast hesitated, its red sensor eyes flickering as it tried to process the new information. Kairos did not attack the iron beast. Instead, the dragon reached out with its expanded mind and touched the consciousness that was trapped inside the mechanical body. Lisa gasped as she realized the truth. The iron beast was not completely artificial. At its core was the brain of a living creature that had been enslaved and turned into a weapon. The dragon's psychic touch freed the organic mind from its mechanical prison. The iron beast's red eyes flickered and changed to a soft blue color. For the first time in years, the creature inside the machine remembered who it used to be. The crowd was becoming restless. They had come to see a fight, but the two creatures in the arena were just standing there, surrounded by strange lights and energy. "What is happening?" demanded a rich alien in the VIP section. "Why are they not fighting?" Vex Therian was trying to regain control of the situation. He activated backup neural suppressors and called for guards to enter the arena. But the psychic field around Kairos was too strong. The suppressors burned out as soon as they were turned on. Lisa felt the bond, with Kairos reach full strength. But this time, she was not just connected to one dragon. She was part of a network of minds that included every conscious creature in the arena. She could feel their fear, their pain, but also their growing hope. The liberation was spreading. In the cells below the arena, creatures were breaking free from their restraints. The psychic energy from Kairos was giving them strength and coordination they had never possessed before. A six-legged cat melted the lock on its cage with its icy breath. A group of poisonous lizards worked together to dig through the concrete wall of their cell. Mechanical constructs that had been enslaved for decades suddenly remembered their original programming and began to rebel against their captors. The arena guards tried to stop the escape, but they were outnumbered and unprepared. The creatures they had thought were broken and defeated were fighting back with the fury of beings who had been enslaved for too long. Lisa felt Captain Sullivan's voice in her hidden radio. "Lisa, whatever you and Kairos are doing, keep it up. The entire Krillian defense network is going crazy. Their control systems are failing all over the planet." But Lisa was barely aware of the radio. She was experiencing something beyond anything she had ever imagined. Through Kairos, she could sense the minds of enslaved creatures on other worlds, in other star systems. The psychic network was spreading faster than light itself, carried by quantum connections that the Zirathi had built into their dragons long ago. Kairos was not just a companion or a weapon. It was a living nexus designed to connect conscious minds across the galaxy. The Zirathi had created the dragons to be guardians of free will itself, protecting the spark of consciousness that existed in all intelligent beings. The tears Lisa had shed were the catalyst that allowed Kairos to reach its true potential. They contained the emotional bond between human and dragon, but also something more, the essence of what it meant to be free. On worlds across the Krillian Empire, enslaved creatures were suddenly feeling the touch of Kairos's expanded consciousness. They began to remember who they were before they were captured. They started to fight back against their captors, coordinating their efforts through the psychic network. The effect was cascading through the galaxy. Prison planets that had been under Krillian control for centuries were experiencing massive uprisings. Slave ships found their cargo holds full of rebellious creatures who were no longer afraid. In the arena, Vextharian was panicking. He had never seen anything like this before. The carefully controlled environment of his Colosseum was falling apart as creatures broke free and began to attack the guards. "Stop this!" he screamed at Lisa. "You are destroying everything." But Lisa was not destroying anything. She was helping to restore what had been taken away. The freedom that every conscious being deserved was spreading through the galaxy like wildfire. Kairos spread its wings, now free from the broken chains. The dragon's scales blazed with white gold light as it lifted off the arena floor. But instead of flying away, it hovered in the air and reached out its mind to embrace every creature in the Colosseum. The Iron Beast, now freed from its mechanical prison, looked up at Kairos with gratitude. The creature inside the machine had been a peaceful herbivore before it was captured and transformed. Now it remembered its true nature and felt no desire to fight. Other creatures throughout the arena were experiencing similar awakenings. Predators and prey animals that had been forced to fight each other realized they were all victims of the same oppression. Instead of attacking each other, they began to work together against their common enemy. Lisa felt the psychic network stabilize as thousands of minds found their place in the growing web of consciousness. She was still connected to Kairos, but now she was also connected to every freed creature in the galaxy. The feeling was overwhelming but wonderful. The bond between her and Kairos had become something much greater than either of them had imagined. They were no longer just human and dragon. They were the focal point of a revolution that would change the galaxy forever. As the arena filled with the light of freedom, Lisa smiled through her tears. She had come to save one dragon, but instead she had helped awaken the consciousness of an entire galaxy. The Krillian Empire, built on the enslavement of others, was crumbling as its victims remembered their power. The true power of the dragon was not in its strength or its fire, but in its ability to connect minds and restore the freedom that tyranny had tried to destroy. The revolution that began in the Grand Arena spread across Torvin Prime like lightning. Lisa could feel it happening through the psychic network that connected her to Kairos and all the freed creatures. Everywhere the dragon's consciousness touched, enslaved beings remembered their true nature and began to fight for their freedom. In the arena, the last of the Krillian guards were surrendering or fleeing. The creatures they had once controlled now stood together as allies instead of enemies. The six-legged cats worked with the poisonous lizards to capture guards. Mechanical constructs used their strength to break open more prison cells. Arena Master Vextharian tried to escape, but the Iron Beast blocked his path. The creature that had once been his greatest weapon now stood as a guardian of freedom. The mechanical body was still intimidating, but the consciousness inside was gentle and peaceful. "Please," Vextharian begged. "I was only following orders. I never wanted to hurt anyone." Lisa looked down at him from where she stood with Kairos. Through the psychic network, she could sense his thoughts. He was lying. Vextharian had enjoyed the suffering of others. He had grown rich and powerful by selling pain as entertainment. But Lisa also sensed something else. Even this cruel being had the spark of consciousness inside him. The network that Kairos had created did not judge or seek revenge. It only offered the chance for redemption. "You can choose to be different," Lisa said to Vextharian. "The network is open to all conscious minds, even yours. But you have to truly want to change." Vextharian looked confused. He had expected punishment, not an offer of forgiveness. Around him, the creatures he had tormented were not attacking him. They were simply watching and waiting to see what he would choose. Meanwhile, Captain Sullivan's voice crackled through Lisa's hidden radio. "Lisa, we're getting reports from across the galaxy. Krillian prison worlds are in revolt. Their entire empire is collapsing." Lisa felt a wave of joy through the psychic network. Billions of enslaved creatures were breaking free from their chains. The oppression that had lasted for centuries was ending in a matter of hours. But she also sensed something troubling. The sudden collapse of the Krillian Empire was creating chaos. Some worlds were descending into violence as different groups fought for control. The freedom that the network had brought came with the responsibility to use it wisely. Kairos landed. Beside Lysa, its scales now shining with their natural green and silver colors mixed with traces of white gold. The dragon's eyes were bright with intelligence and compassion. Through their bond, Lisa felt its thoughts clearly. The dragon was not satisfied with simply destroying the Krillian Empire. It wanted to help build something better in its place. The psychic network was not just a weapon of liberation. It was a tool for cooperation and understanding. Lisa felt the network stabilize. As minds across the galaxy found their place in the growing web of consciousness. Former slaves were working together regardless of their species or origin. They were sharing knowledge, resources, and hope. On Torvin Prime, the freed creatures began to organize themselves. The six-legged cats used their natural hunting skills to secure food and supplies. The poisonous lizards used their knowledge of chemistry to neutralize the remaining control devices. The mechanical constructs used their strength to repair damage and build shelter. But the most important work was being done by Kairos. The dragon was teaching the other creatures how to use the psychic network responsibly. With power came the need for wisdom. Lisa watched as former enemies learned to work together. Predators and prey species that had been forced to fight in the arena now collaborated to solve problems. The network allowed them to understand each other's perspectives and find common ground. Amy Roberts' voice came through the radio. "Lisa, your vital signs are off the charts, but in a good way. Whatever is happening to you, it's making you stronger." Lisa smiled. She could feel the changes in her body. The bond with Kairos was no longer just connecting her to one dragon. She was part of something much larger. Her consciousness was expanded, her senses enhanced, and her understanding of the universe deepened. But she was still human. The network had not erased her individuality or her connection to her own species. If anything, it had made her more aware of what made humans special. Humans had the ability to form bonds across species lines. They could feel empathy for beings completely different from themselves. This quality had allowed Lisa to connect with Kairos in the first place, and now it was helping to hold the psychic network together. Through the network, Lisa felt the presence of Captain Sullivan, Pete Johnson, Amy Roberts, and the rest of her crew. They were not directly connected to Kairos like she was, but their loyalty and friendship created a different kind of bond. Human relationships were built on choice and commitment rather than psychic connection. Zaranex and her resistance fighters arrived at the arena to find the situation already under control. The alien warrior looked amazed at what she saw. Creatures from dozens of different species were working together peacefully, rebuilding what had been a place of suffering into something hopeful. "How is this possible?" Zaranex asked Lisa. "I have fought the Krillians for decades, but I never imagined anything like this. Kairos is not just a dragon," Lisa explained. "It's a bridge between different kinds of consciousness. The Zirathi created it to protect free will throughout the galaxy." Zaranex looked at Kairos with new respect. "My people have legends about creatures like this. We called them the Dream Weavers, beings that could connect minds across the stars." Over the following days, Torvin Prime was transformed. The Grand Arena became a center of learning and cultural exchange. Former slaves shared their knowledge and skills with each other. The planet that had once been a symbol of oppression became a beacon of cooperation. Lisa and Kairos worked together to establish guidelines for the psychic network. Freedom was important, but so was responsibility. The network could amplify both good and evil intentions, so its users had to learn wisdom along with power. Some beings chose not to join the network, and that choice was respected. Freedom included the right to remain independent. But most creatures found that being connected to other minds enriched their lives rather than diminishing them. The Krillian Empire officially surrendered after 2 weeks of constant revolts. The few remaining Krillian leaders who had not been overthrown agreed to give up their claims to enslaved worlds. Some, like Vextharian, chose to join the network and work toward redemption. Others simply disappeared into exile. Captain Sullivan and his crew prepared to return to human space with news of what they had witnessed. But they carried more than just information. They carried the knowledge that consciousness was not limited to individual minds. "Will you come back with us?" Captain Sullivan asked Lisa. As they stood on the highest tower of the transformed arena. Lisa looked at Kairos, feeling the gentle touch of the dragon's mind alongside hundreds of others in the network. She was no longer just human, but she had not stopped being human either. She had become something new, a bridge between individual consciousness and collective awareness. "I think I need to stay here for a while," Lisa said. "There's still work to do. The network is new and fragile. It needs guides who understand both connection and independence." Amy Roberts smiled. "I'll miss you, but I understand. You've found your true calling." Pete Johnson laughed. "Just remember us little people when you're connecting minds across the galaxy." Kevin Davis was more serious. "This changes everything we know about consciousness and communication. The scientific implications are staggering." Lisa hugged each of her friends goodbye. Through the network, she could feel their emotions, sadness at parting, but also pride and wonder at what had been accomplished. As the Endeavor prepared to leave Torvin Prime, Lisa stood with Kairos on the tower, watching the ship disappear into the stars. Around them, the city was alive with activity, as beings from across the galaxy worked together to build a better future. Home isn't a place anymore, Lisa said, resting her hand on Kairos's gleaming scales. It's wherever consciousness chooses to flourish freely. The dragon's thoughts merged with hers in perfect harmony. Together, they had discovered that the greatest power in the universe was not strength or technology or Eden magic. It was the ability to connect with other minds while still maintaining individual identity. The story of Lisa and Kairos spread throughout the galaxy, carried by the psychic network and by traditional communication methods. It became a legend that inspired other species to look beyond their differences and find common ground. But for Lisa, it was not a legend. It was simply the beginning of a new kind of life. She had come to save one dragon and had ended up helping to save the concept of freedom itself. Years later, when beings throughout the galaxy faced new challenges and threats, they would remember the lesson of the dragon and the human who cried tears of love. Sometimes the greatest power comes not from fighting against something, but from connecting with it and helping it remember what it was meant to be. The psychic network continued to grow, connecting minds across species and star systems. But it never became a hive mind or a collective consciousness that erased individuality. Instead, it remained what Kairos and Lisa had always intended it to be, a celebration of the infinite diversity of Kansi.